Why does she always come back to the guys who treat her like she doesn't matter? You've probably seen it happen. The nice guy who does everything right gets ignored, while the guy who barely texts back has her completely obsessed. It drives you crazy because it makes no sense. But there's actually a dark psychology behind why acting cold works so well that most guys never discover. And I'm about to reveal the 3 psychological triggers that make this strategy devastatingly effective. But here's the thing. If you only use 1 or 2 of these triggers, you'll actually push her away forever. You need all 3 working together. And the third one is so counterintuitive that it goes against everything you've been taught about relationships. Let me start with something that's going to make you uncomfortable. Every time you've chased a girl, every time you've poured your heart out in long texts, every time you've made yourself completely available, you weren't showing love. You were showing desperation. And desperation is the fastest way to kill attraction. But before I explain why acting cold works, I need you to understand the first psychological trigger that makes this entire strategy possible. It's called scarcity psychology, and it controls more of your behavior than you realize. Think about the last time you wanted something really badly. Maybe it was concert tickets that were selling out, or a limited edition item, or even just getting into an exclusive restaurant. The harder it was to get, the more you wanted it, right? That's scarcity psychology. Your brain is wired to value things that are rare, limited, or difficult to obtain. But here's where it gets interesting for relationships. When you make yourself completely available to her, when you answer every text immediately, when you drop everything to see her, you're communicating that your time and attention have no value. You're abundant, not scarce, and abundance kills desire. However, there's a massive problem with how most guys try to create scarcity. They think it means being mean or playing obvious games. They ignore her completely or act like jerks, and then wonder why she blocks them instead of chasing them. That's not scarcity, that's just being unlikable. Real scarcity in relationships looks completely different, and this brings me to the second psychological trigger you need to understand. It's called intermittent reinforcement, and it's the same principle that makes gambling addictive. Here's how it works. When someone gets a reward every single time they do something, they expect it. There's no excitement, no anticipation. But when the reward comes unpredictably, sometimes yes, sometimes no, it creates an addiction-like response in the brain. Casinos figured this out decades ago. They don't make you lose every time, because then you'd stop playing. They don't make you win every time, because then you'd get bored. They make you win just often enough to keep you hoping for the next win. The same principle applies to your attention and affection. When you're always available, always responsive, always giving her emotional validation, you're like a slot machine that pays out every time. Boring, predictable, easy to walk away from. But when your attention becomes unpredictable, sometimes warm, sometimes distant, sometimes available, sometimes busy, you activate the same psychological mechanism that keeps people pulling slot machine handles for hours. Now, I can already hear what you're thinking. This sounds manipulative. It sounds like playing games, and you're not wrong to feel that way. But here's what most people don't understand about human psychology. We're all playing these games already, just unconsciously. The girl who's not interested in you, she's naturally creating scarcity because she genuinely has other priorities. The guy she's obsessing over, he's naturally providing intermittent reinforcement because he's not that invested in her responses. What I'm teaching you is simply to do consciously what attractive people do naturally. But even if you master scarcity and intermittent reinforcement, you'll still fail if you don't understand the third trigger. And this one is so important that without it, the other 2 will actually backfire on you. The third trigger is called investment escalation, and it's based on a simple but powerful psychological principle. People don't value what they don't work for. But more importantly, and this is the key, people become more attached to things they've invested effort in obtaining. Think about your job. Even if you complain about it, you probably have some emotional attachment to it because of all the time and energy you've invested. Now think about a job you applied for but didn't get. Do you feel the same attachment? Of course not. This is why acting cold works, but only if you do it right. When you step back and become less available, you force her to invest effort in getting your attention. And every text she sends first, every time she initiates contact, every moment she spends wondering what you're thinking, that's investment. And investment creates attachment. But here's the crucial part that most guys mess up. You can't just disappear completely, because then there's nothing for her to invest in. You need to give her opportunities to chase you, but make those opportunities feel earned, not given. This means responding to her texts, but not immediately. It means being warm when you're together, but not being available whenever she wants to get together. It means showing interest, but making her work to maintain your interest. Remember, if you just ignore her completely, she has nothing to invest in. If you're always available, she has no need to invest. But if you're selectively available, if your attention feels valuable because it's not guaranteed, that's when she starts chasing. Now here's what's really interesting. As she starts investing more effort in getting your attention, something psychological happens to her. She starts justifying that effort by convincing herself that you must be worth it. After all, why would she be working so hard for someone who wasn't valuable? This is called effort justification, and it's one of the most powerful psychological principles in human behavior. The more effort someone puts into obtaining something, the more valuable they perceive it to be. But there's one final piece to this puzzle that makes the difference between this strategy working and completely backfiring on you. You can't just act cold for the sake of acting cold. You have to actually become someone whose time and attention are genuinely valuable. This means having your own goals, your own interests, your own life that doesn't revolve around her. The most attractive version of acting cold isn't an act at all. It's the natural result of being so focused on building an amazing life that you don't have time to chase anyone who isn't enthusiastically choosing to be part of it. When you combine genuine self-improvement with strategic scarcity, intermittent reinforcement, and investment escalation, that's when you become irresistible, not just to her, but to everyone around you. Because the truth is, people who understand their own value don't need to convince others of it. They just live it.